Well, if you look at some of the newspapers this morning, there's these pictures of the Brazilian president he's becoming the new president with his wife, and got my attention this morning. The president was congratulating him, saying the USA is with you. What's your response to this?
I got to tell you,
why is that important?
It is. I'll tell you why it's important for a couple of reasons. While President Trump is taking hits and op-eds in the Washington Post by people who couldn't achieve what he achieved,
Mitt Romney.
Around the world, we are seeing a movement, a global movement, a pushback against the elites that we've never seen before, I don't think, in the history of in the world. And the most latest example of that is Brazil. This is a shocking victory. We're talking about a guy who had no money. He was almost fatally stabbed on the campaign trail. His party almost was non-existent. They never won. This is the first time his party ever won an election down there. And what did he run on? Anti-crime, anti-corruption. But he also talked about pushing out socialism. He talked about fake news. He loves Donald Trump. He idolizes Donald Trump. And I think, you know, you couple this with what we're seeing in Europe, what we saw in Italy, the Brexit, what we're seeing in other places. There's an uprising against global elites who have talked down to us for so long and never delivered.
He was in Congress. No one ever linked him to any corruption, number one. Number two is he's against socialism, as you mentioned, but he also is cracking down on the border. He sees what's happening in Central and South America, and he says we cannot have millions of people streaming into our country when we are on our backs with social programs. He also is pushing back against China and their investment, which turns out to be extortion, because once they invest and build your infrastructure, they want to affect your policy. And in Brazil, they're pushing back on that.
They should push back. It's the new colonialization. You know, the president of Malaysia went to China, a 95-year-old guy went to China and said, no, thank you, to $25 billion. He says, you guys are colonizing the world. I don't want your money. But other countries have taken their money, and as consequently, they are taking over parts of Africa, parts of Asia, parts of South America. They are taking them over. It's like it's predatory lending. If your country has a net GDP of $600 million and I lend you $2 billion, I know you can never pay that back.
That's right.
Eventually, I will own your country.
Holy cow. And that's what's happening in Pakistan.